Welcome. Have you ever had that moment in life, like the great Eminem, where you have a chance to lose yourself in the moment, step up to the plate, and hit a home run? Or do you get choked up and fail? Well, that's what we're talking about tonight, performance anxiety and what we call the yips in sports. These moments in life, we've all had them, where we're filled with anxiety and worry, and it could go great, or it could crash and it could burn. What's going on inside our brain as we're processing these experiences, and how does it actually impact our performance? Don't go anywhere. We're answering all these questions tonight in the Rad and Norty Show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're live. All right. We're live for another week of the Rad and Norty Show. You can beat us down, but you can't knock us out. We always come back. We're like a regenerative, amphibious entity. Rad and Norty, the dynamic duo. What's going on in your life, Josh? Catch me up. Obviously, a lot's transpired since our last show.
It feels like it was a long weekend on top of what it usually feels like a lifetime between our shows. Forgot today was Wednesday, so I'm glad I remembered that it was show day. Memorial Day weekend. Then we took...
Any plans over the weekend?
So I can't remember. I already can't remember what we did over the weekend, but took Tuesday off as well. We went to the beach. If you can't tell, for those of you in the cheap seats, I got a great tan.
And my farmer's tan, I think, is superior to your white boy Chicago tan.
I am slightly less pasty than I was before, and we're making progress. All right, this is the summer of tan Norty, and we're working on it.
The summer of tan. You're gonna get outside, stop playing so many video games.
Listen, we're gonna find out if
ultraviolet rays.
We are gonna find out if I can tan or if I am so pale that I just reflect sunlight. So tune in each week. See if I'm getting a tan, see if I'm reflecting sunlight. That is how that works. And yeah, that's about all that's new with me. Outside of that, not much.
Where do people in Chicago go to the beach? On a lake?
Wisconsin. Now, there's lakes all around. We have Lake Michigan.
But are those really beaches?
I mean, there's beaches. There's water. I think that's what defines a beach.
So
there's sand.
In Norty's world, water defines a beach.
Yeah. I mean, you fill up a pool, dump some sand by it, I'll classify that as a beach. I guarantee it.
That's a shoddy definition. I think you need an ocean for a beach first.
Now, you need at least a lake. You need a reservoir of water. A lake counts.
I don't think lakes count, personally.
That counts as a beach. I would prefer an ocean beach. That being said, I do not have the ocean nearby, so I'm going to take a lake. Many of the Great Lakes.
I mean, lakes are great. Don't get me wrong. Love the lake experience, but does it classify as a beach? I would argue not.
It's still a beach. There's sand.
What's in the chat?
Body of water.
Can a lake be a beach, or is it just the great imitator of the great Atlantic coast? Atlantic or Pacific Ocean, my friend? What do you pick?
I don't think I care. I'll take any ocean.
You don't care.
Is there a difference? Like, they're both big bodies of water full of sharks.
Have you ever been to a coastal region?
Yeah, I've been to Mexico. I was like California.
What side of Mexico?
I don't remember. I think it was Gulf. I was by the Gulf side. Is that right? It was in Cancun.
Option. I don't know if that's where you were, but yes, that's an option.
Why don't you know where I was? Cancun. I don't know where that is. I don't know which side that is.
I'm pretty sure it's on the.
I think that's Gulf.
I don't know. Cancun. Let's look it up. My geography is not that good. I know like the general shapes of things. Cancun. On a map, what side of Mexico is Cancun on? Cancun is on the Gulf side.
See? Gulf side.
Correct. Although technically it's kind of like the inlet of the Gulf to the Caribbean.
Yeah, so because we went swimming in the Gulf at one point. And then I don't know if the beach, whatever resort we were at the time, if the beach was like...
It is definitively not on the Pacific side, though, which...
Yeah.
Personally, so as someone who has lived coastally and by
you've lived by both of them, right?
Yes.
At some point in your life.
Yes. I will 100% advocate for the Atlantic Ocean.
But why?
Water's warmer. I think it's more comfortable. So it's like more enjoyable for water activities, in my opinion. I mean, the Pacific Ocean to me was like freezing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like there was never like you go down to like South Carolina.
Mhm.
Because I went and did it was basically a business trip to South Carolina in like late May, I think it was.
Mhm.
And we took a day. We and a couple of guys I was traveling with, we went out to the beach for the day. It was like bath water. It was great. You literally just sit there and just like enjoy the Atlantic Ocean along the southeastern coast. It was wonderful. You go out to San Diego, I mean, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. Peak summer, water's freezing.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. So I have no desire to be in the water on the West Coast. East Coast, all about it.
I'm not getting in the water on either coast or in a lake for that matter, right? Like I like the sound of the ocean. I don't want to get in the water.
That's reasonable. I mean, I'm not, honestly, I'm not like a big water person.
Yeah.
So I like to do like kind of an inaugural dip in the water when I go to the beach, just to like say I went in and not like drive all the way to the beach and not even go in the water.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely a beach sitter, not a swimmer.
Like we were doing an excursion in Mexico, and one of them was you swim across the Gulf. I looked down, I saw a stingray, I was out. I turned around, I was like, nope, I'm good.
Isn't that how Steve Irwin
Irwin
died from a stingray right through the
man.
chest or something?
Yeah, he got too close, and that's their defense mechanism. It was like a freak accident. They don't do that very often.
It's gnarly, man.
Ugh.
Stingray harpoon to the chest.
Yeah, so I'm good on ocean creatures.
However, I'm going to give my final caveat of judgment, though. I do like the beaches of the West Coast better, from what I've seen. There's some weird beaches, I won't lie. Like I've seen some like weird parts of the West Coast where I'm like, this is a really weird beach.
Well,
but by and large, their beaches are like they're way
massive,
deeper.
Right? Yeah,
they're like deep.
I didn't get to enjoy it. So mine very similar. I went on a business trip. I was in Los Angeles. We drove up to the Santa Monica Pier. We walked the pier. I saw the beach. Didn't get to like enjoy it. It was nighttime. I think we ate somewhere on the pier, and then I flew out the next morning and I was gone. So it's not like I got to really enjoy. Yeah,
that's a nice beach though.
It looked nice, but I didn't really get to enjoy it.
Like, Santa Monica's cool. I mean, I can't think of anything comparable to on the East Coast that I've ever been to. I mean, there's lots of places on the East Coast I've never been, but I mean, when you compare it to like my typical beach locations on the East Coast, that's just a totally different environment, right?
Jersey Shore.
Yeah, the Jersey Shore is a cool place. I don't know, like it's got its own culture and identity. I don't know how to explain it, but because the beaches aren't as like deep as the West Coast beaches, I feel like they do. Like you walk out to the beach in New Jersey, and there's just people sprawled out everywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas you probably have more people at a beach on the West Coast, but it's not as spread, or it's so much more spread out that you're not on top of each other.
So it just like feels less crowded at that point.
Yeah, like it feels like almost like a communal activity on the East Coast. Like there's just you can't help but like be around people, you know?
Right. And
whereas on the West Coast you can spread out so much. I mean, you can literally attend the beach in isolation.
I got you.
So,
I can see what that's.
Those are my differing experiences. Also, the boardwalk on the Jersey Shore is like, I don't know. I never really experienced much of that out on the West Coast. They have piers and like, you know, your typical pier experience, but not like. I always think of you remember that Nickelodeon show Rocket Power?
Yeah.
I always think of that show when I think of like West Coast piers. I don't know why.
Right, Nickelodeon had some great shows. That's another.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay. That let that be our next tangent. Yeah. What are your favorite Nickelodeon shows from the day?
Yeah. I know we talked about.
Tell us in the chat if you're a Nickelodeon kid. Let us know what your favorite Nickelodeon jams were in the chat.
Even expanded to Cartoon Network. I feel like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon were synonymous.
Cartoon Network.
I had them both, but I was definitely more of a Nickelodeon
too broke
kid.
for Cartoon Network, my friend. We were lucky we had Nickelodeon. And it was probably only because my grandmother lived with us.
It was so much better. Nickelodeon was so much better than Cartoon Network for me. Like I know there's people that grew up on Cartoon Network. Those cartoons got weird.
The only Cartoon Network show I can think of is like Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, and I didn't like Johnny Bravo. There's like Dexter's Laboratory was my favorite.
Oh yeah, that was a Cartoon Network show.
That was Cartoon Network. Yeah.
Yeah, Dexter's Laboratory was awesome.
I love that one. Invader Zim, I think may have been Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network.
I don't think it's Nickelodeon. I was not an Invader Zim fan.
I loved Invader Zim.
Welcome to the show. If you're joining us, tell us in the chat what your favorite Nickelodeon or childhood cartoons are. We're largely focused on Nickelodeon, but Cartoon Network's up for fair. So like, what were your go-tos? What were your like iconic era? Like, are we talking shows, like Nickelodeon type shows?
Just all kid shows? Or are we talking cartoons specifically?
I don't know, like, whatever that like, iconic childhood era was for you.
Man, it was
not really a rigid timeline.
It was Transformers, G.I. Joes, Spider-Man were like the ones I grew up on. Those were
what was that? What was that on? Cartoon Network?
Like, I don't even know what network that was on. It was like
that sounds like more like Saturday morning cartoons.
That was
like not really Nickelodeon.
No, this was like pre that Nickelodeon cartoon era. Yeah. But those were the best. I love those.
Saturday morning cartoons that I remember growing up on, Captain Planet for sure. Captain Planet was my jam. A little bit of Power Rangers, although that became more of the Power Rangers was more of the like after school television programming, like elementary school. That's when we start hitting up Power Rangers.
Yep, and that's when I feel like that's when I started to get into Disney Channel. With like I love Boy Meets World. I feel like it's Disney Channel.
Boy Meets World wasn't Disney Channel.
Or was that ABC? Either way,
it was network television on TGI Fridays.
So I love Boy Meets World.
I don't know what network it was on, but it was like standard like cable network. Every Friday night they'd have Boy Meets World, Family Matters, Full House,
Fresh Prince. Fresh Prince was up there for me.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I didn't really watch that as much. When it was airing live, but we watched it all the time when the reruns started coming up in that like after school time period. So that was definitely an after school show for us. But we watched a lot of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh yeah, I watched all of those shows: Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step.
Step by Step. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I remember Seventh Heaven. That wasn't a big show. I do remember that one.
I never got into Seventh Heaven. I never got into the 90210s. I love the Disney Channel shows, so I loved Even Stevens.
Disney Channel.
Like whatever, Lizzie McGuire, that was there.
Lizzie, I feel like that was younger. Rugrats. Oh, that's a Nickelodeon classic. Rugrats.
Rugrats was great. Yes. Rocko's Modern Life, if we're going back to Nickelodeon.
Rocko's Modern Life.
Doug was the greatest show of all time.
Patty Mayonnaise.
And the Beats, Roger Klotz.
Oh yeah, the Beats. What was that one super awesome song that the Beats had?
It's like the Beats. Wasn't that one?
Maybe that was one of them. Something. I need more allowance. Oh, yes. Oh, Doug, man, what a show!
All of those were fantastic.
That was a fantastic show.
Well, but then it started getting weird with like Ren and Stimpy.
Oh yeah, we were never big Red and Stimpy fans.
Like I remember watching it.
I'd be surprised if we weren't allowed to watch Red and Stimpy.
Yeah, my mom didn't want me to watch it, but like I would watch it, and I'm like, this makes me feel weird inside because it
makes me feel weird inside.
Yeah, something about this just is strange, and I don't know why. Cat Dog.
Yeah. Cat Dog was a good one. I feel like that was the after school time period. That's like when I associate things. I think back to like what time of the day was I like watching this television program as a kid?
See, I don't remember for the later ones, but Saturday morning, I feel like that was the time where I tuned into whether it was X-Men, Spider-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe. And then once it got time for, I think it was like Livewire, there's like a WWE recap show called like Livewire. So I watch all my wrestling highlights and news shows on Saturday.
Saturday, I have like a lot of Pokemon memories from Saturday mornings.
Pokemon was good too.
Watching Pokemon Saturday mornings, and then there was a brief period of time, probably for a couple months, where our local Toys R Us had a Pokemon League every Saturday morning that my dad would take us to, and like you'd show up with like your deck of cards, you'd be like, "I'm here to duel."
I never knew how to play Pokemon the actual card game.
Oh, we were hardcore. Like, we
wish
knew
I
all the
was.
rules. We went and competed in like leagues, and you'd like basically like you'd show up at Toys R Us with your Game Boy and your deck of cards. And for however long you're there, you just play. You either battle on your Game Boy or you play with your cards. And every time you finish like a match or a battle, you go up to one of the Toys R Us workers and they stamp your book. And then once you've filled up enough stamps, you get like your gym badge. And then you start filling up your book for the next gym badge.
Now
and that's how you like became like a Pokemaster at the Toys R Us Pokemon League.
This might be a bad time to tell you, but you can download the Pokemon trading card game for your computer now.
Is it kind of like Hearthstone type of thing?
Just like that, but you can play. It's all the old rules.
Do they have like online like ladder ranking system?
Probably. I don't know. I never
played.
You
play against other people.
You can play against other people. Yeah.
So that could be fun.
Yeah,
I remember there was this big one. So my thing, right? I mean, obviously, my thing as a kid was like my dad could never take me anywhere without me, or my mom for that matter. They could never, like, especially Toys R Us. Like, you couldn't take me there without me asking to buy something.
Yep.
So it was always problematic going to Toys R Us for the Pokemon League because I'd always be like, "Can I buy Pokemon cards?" And my dad's like, "No, you have a million Pokemon cards. Like, you're here to play Pokemon cards, not buy Pokemon cards." But I just like could not like comprehend in my brain like walking into Toys R Us and like for any reason other than to buy something.
Yep.
So that was the thing. I always asked for Pokemon cards when we would go. And anybody that knows me will understand this story. But my tactic was always, well, if I just keep asking, eventually they have to say yes. And so I would just ask my dad endlessly when we're there. And so one week he's finally like, all right, well, I'll play you for a pack of Pokemon cards. If you can beat me, I'll buy you a pack of Pokemon cards. And it was like the most intense Pokemon battle of my entire life. And I had him on the ropes. I needed like one more turn to finally do him in, beat my dad at Pokemon cards, and win a pack of Pokemon cards. He had one move, and it was if he drew an energy card on his next draw, then he would have like the perfect hand to beat me before I could beat him. Otherwise, if he didn't draw this one card, it was guaranteed defeat and I'd be victorious. Well, sure enough, he draws the one energy card that was needed. He beat me, and I literally just I was just like 8-year-old Ryan distraught. Absolutely distraught. I've never experienced such heartache in my entire life, to the point where like I literally thought like there's no way my father is going to let me just not get a pack of Pokemon cards after I worked that hard. Surely he will honor my work ethic even though I lost. He did not.
Nope.
He said,
"Lesson learned.
You lost.
Scrub."
There was no mercy. And it's traumatized me to this day.
I can tell.
Yep.
With the way that you recalled it with such conviction.
Oh, there was
Toys R Us was the place to be though. Like I was the same way. Like anytime I went to Toys R Us, it was like, well, can I get a wrestling figure? Or if you can't see, like I found my way back into wrestling figures, or I want a video game, or like a strategy guide. You ever just want to get a strategy guide? I love strategy guides.
Like for video games?
Yeah. Like Prima.
Yeah. I remember borrowing the strategy guide from someone for Final Fantasy VII.
Yep, I had that. Oh.
And it was like it was like mind-blowingly unlocked your everything.
Yep. That's the best.
That, and what was that? That website, old school website.
CheatCC?
CheatCC.com.
Oh yeah.
right? I mean,
That
you
was-
couldn't play video games without it back
No,
then. There was no YouTube. There were no
Mm-mm.
tutorials.
No, but you get a walkthrough. You get a walkthrough on Cheat CC, or you get the cheat codes. You
Mhm.
get infinite ammo in Grand Theft Auto. You know,
Yep. I remember we had this one game. I don't even remember what it was called. I literally I don't even know
what was the premise? I could probably remember it.
It was this Japanese game for Nintendo 64. And we've done absolutely nothing to address our main topic of
Zero.
sports anxiety, but that's okay.
We'll get
Red
to it.
Norty show, we're all about just hitting it.
We'll get to it.
We're getting to it. So if you're here to talk about sports anxiety, throw your questions in the chat and get us back on track. If you're enjoying this great discussion of just reminiscing through the childhood of a bunch of 90s kids, then come along for the ride, because that's where we're headed. So this game, it was for Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise of the game was you were like, it was like a Japanese game. I think the whole thing was like in Japanese. And you would literally like go through levels. It was probably like, kind of basic like Donkey Kong style stuff where you're basically going up, moving through a screen, going up the levels, and then you make it to the top and move over, and it takes you to a new kind of screen. But you're basically just running along in a 2D plane, jumping over obstacles, trying not to like die, basically. And along the way, you would pick up like power-ups and stuff. And I just remember one of the power-ups was like a giant block of tofu. And you would like eat this block of tofu to get powered up. And I have literally no idea what this game was called, but I remember using like cheat codes from cheatcc.com or whatever. And it like broke the game.
Yeah.
To the point where like the game would start glitching out.
Well, because I remember that's how you would, going back to Pokemon, you would glitch the game out. So you find like the little brick thing, and it would basically break the game to the point where you'd get like infinite of whatever item that you wanted.
You're talking about the cheat code in Pokemon, like the original
Pokemon.
Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember this. This is my insane, like, elephant memory brain. Literally, I haven't done this in decades, and I'm about to blow your mind. So any item that you want infinite quantity of, you would place that item in the 6th slot of your backpack. And then you would take a Pokemon with a surf ability, and you would surf along the eastern border of wherever that island with the last gym on it.
Yeah.
Remember what was that island with the last gym on it?
I don't remember what island it was. I just remember surfing.
It was the fire gym.
I would just go up and down that little coast.
Yeah, it's the fire gym is the last gym. So I'm inclined to call it Fire Island, but I don't think it was Fire Island.
It might have been. I don't know.
Anyway, you would literally, what you would do is you would swim up and down the coast until you encountered a Missingo or an M. The title would just come up as M.
Yep.
And then I think I forget exactly what you'd have to do, but I think that you wouldn't kill it.
No, you'd have to like run away or something.
You have to run away, and you would suddenly have an infinite volume of whatever items like in the 6th slot of your bag. Hey, Carlos, welcome to the show, my good friend. It's great to see you. We hope you're well. We are having a grand old time reminiscing on the 90s right now. We're talking about favorite cartoons from our childhood. So we were telling everyone, let us know what your favorite Nickelodeon or Saturday morning cartoons. That obviously kind of got us talking about Pokemon. So we've been talking about our childhood Pokemon experiences. We were most recently talking about the Game Boy game. So that's how you would multiply the items infinitely. So you with
rare candies. Rare candies and master.
Rare candies, yeah. So you get infinite level ups. Let me say, who's having performance issues? Well, actually, interestingly, the article that I read today broke down performance issues into 3 categories. Okay. Sports, sex, and stage. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That was some elements of performance anxiety hadn't really crossed my mind. But Anyway, back to video games, or back to our childhoods, because I think the 90s is far more entertaining than the Yips at this point. But what great Nickelodeon shows, coming back to our original point.
All that.
Yes, you beat me to it. I was about to say All That and Keenan and Kel. They always went back to back.
Who loves orange soda?
Kel loves orange soda.
Is it true?
It's true. It's true. It's true. Ooh. Like, what a great show. What a great show. Kel, I got an idea.
Oh, no. Didn't he always get upset when Keenan had an idea? It's like, oh, no. Here we go.
Ah, no. Interestingly, my sister and my dad have met Keenan, and I was pretty jealous about that.
I'm pretty jealous about that right now.
Yeah, my dad used to pull some gigs doing some stuff for Saturday Night Live, and so he had met Keenan a couple times, and I guess my sister went to one of the shows with him and got to meet him.
Oh.
Amanda Bynes, before she went crazy. Well, she used to do that segment on All That. What was it called? Ask Ashley?
I remember her being involved in like a lot of the prominent skits.
Yeah, her. Oh, she had she was originally part of the All That cast. I guess she got her own show at one point, the Amanda Bynes show or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I think that came after my. Like, it was kind of like I knew about it, but didn't really.
I think that was, yeah, I don't remember watching that at all.
But
I remember a lot of them got spin-offs. Like Keenan and Kel got their spin-off.
Yeah.
The Pizza Face Kid did phenomenal. That was the best one.
But Amanda Bynes had her segment on All That where she would like read letters like were like sent in. And she would always have these like ridiculous responses. Like, somebody would be like, oh, I'm having trouble making new friends at my new school. Do you have any advice for me? She'd be like, well, and she'd like start out all like nice and sweet and be like, well, if you're at a new school, she's like, maybe you should stop being such a loser and go and find friends and stop going home and playing video games and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and go out after school and play with some friends and say, hey, I'm new here. I don't have any friends. Maybe think about trying that. And that was like her bitch.
Now I have this odd memory of her like smashing stuff with a hammer. I feel like that may have taken place on her little bit where she just goes crazy.
Like
she's
Gallagher
like breaking
level stuff.
Yeah,
right? Gallagher was the guy that used to like smash watermelons with hammers.
Exactly. So it was like a Gallagher. She would like start off nice, and then she started like breaking something. Like that's what I remember.
I think it's the same segment. I don't know what the segment of the show was, but the other one that we always thought was hilarious was the one where Keenan would be like in the bathtub with his rain gear on and his flippers. Yeah,
he's a French guy.
Yeah, he would pretend to be French. I don't even know what it would be about, but it made
no I remember that too. Hilarious. Didn't he have like you want to say like rubber duckies and stuff? Where he'd always have stuff like floating in his little tub.
Yeah. I mean, Keenan and Kel literally. I mean, Keenan went from doing all that to Keenan and Kel, and then eventually ends up on Saturday Night Live. I mean, that guy literally just. I mean, all that was like the kids' version of Saturday Night Live. I mean,
yeah. Good Burger, the movie came from that
too. Good Burger. Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? Oh, man. What a legend. I'm trying to think if there's any other like classic Nickelodeon shows.
I mean, I'm sure there are. There was Clarissa Explains It All. It was great.
Yeah, we didn't really watch that one, but I knew about it. Are You Afraid of the Dark was another one, but didn't really watch it.
I watched that too. Hey Dude.
Oh.
I think that was Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we
Camp Salute Your Shorts.
Salute Your Shorts. Camp on Awana. We hold you in our hearts. That was a good one. Salute Your Shorts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We didn't watch that one that much. But then obviously you got Saved by the Bell. That recently had its revival spinoff on Netflix or Hulu. It was not good.
No, I want to say it's even on like Peacock or something.
Wherever it was not good. I watched like an episode or two and I was just totally.
Yeah, it's follows Zach's kid, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach and whoever he married, I forget, his girlfriend from the show.
Slater, Kelly Kapowski, one of them.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone other than
Screech?
Screech, thank you. Screech and Slater.
R.I.P. Dustin Diamond. A little bit of a weird guy.
Yeah, how did he pass again? What was his deal?
I want to say either drugs or just like cancer.
Drugs or cancer? That's what's killing everyone these days.
One of the two.
But yeah.
Oh, Guts. I always wanted a piece of the aggro crag.
Guts. Is Guts the one with the slime?
No, aggro crag.
Aggro crag.
You had to climb the mountain. You got a piece of the aggro crag.
I just remember there was the one
Double Dare.
Or super sloppy double dare. Maybe that was what it was. Where they'd reach up into a nose and they have to like pull the slime out to find the flag.
It'd spill everywhere. Mark Summers was the host.
Yeah.
And there's Legends of the Hidden Temple. Team Barracuda always won.
Yeah, I never really watched Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't think that was on our approved television show list.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we used to do a super sloppy double dare party every summer in our Boy Scout troop. And it would always be like the different age groups against each other playing all these crazy games. And it was just, whoever lost got slimed. And they would just make these buckets and buckets of just green slime made out of who knows what. I mean, there was probably buckets of like water, food coloring, and like oatmeal thrown just in there.
Gunk. Yeah.
There was this one game that we did where one person from each team had to like lay on the ground and they would take this bucket of like brown water. I don't even know how they turned it brown. I mean, it was not like muddy water. It was like some sort of like brown dyed.
If you got asked, you don't want to know,
And the volunteer from each team, you'd lay down on the grass. They would take this bucket of brown water. They dunk it on you. So you were brown head to toe, and then the team had to decorate them like they were a gingerbread cookie. And then they would literally, all the adults would like go by and like judge like which team had the best looking gingerbread cookie. So afterwards, we like a couple of us like stand up and we're like all standing next to each other with our arms up, brown head to toe. And my dad got a picture of it. Turns out, I guess, because there's like basically no internet at this point. I think he, what do we have here? Yeah, so this is exactly it. So my dad takes the picture. I guess he found probably like a flyer at the local food store. Because like grocery stores would have like billboards out front for a Tide competition where they're like, send in a picture of like your dirtiest kid's laundry. My dad takes this picture from the super sloppy double dare party, mails it into Tide, and we won a year's supply of Tide laundry detergent. And like literally our family had like a stack of coupons for free Tide that literally just lasted us forever. So that was definitely the Tide coupon book was a big part of our family for a significant memory in our family for sure. But yes, good times.
I miss all those shows, man.
Yeah.
It was a different era.
Different day and age, my friend. The 90s were, it was really the last decade before the internet took over. I mean, clearly the internet existed in the 90s, but it was not a household amenity.
No, it wasn't like a regular thing. Like I remember getting the internet was a huge deal, and I feel like we've touched on that before.
Getting a computer was a big deal, and then forget having internet. I mean, internet came, at least in our house, standard, probably not till after the millennium.
Yeah, we relied on those little like trial internet things. It's like, oh, you get the Netscape or whatever, or try AOL for free for a week, 3 days. I don't know what it was. Then you get a virus and the computer's dead, and it was great.
You get a virus.
Yeah.
Computer hacking back then was I'm sure, quite prevalent because these guys who understood computers understood them. The general public knew nothing about them, and there was zero protection measures in place.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've gone down that
Gone on quite the
road of
rabbit hole.
enjoyment. That was a fun little stream. Shall we get into the actual topic? Maybe
Yeah.
some of your current events. Obviously, our goal or focus is kind of more on sports performance and
Yeah, because
anxiety, related to sports performance. So,
well, that's how I wanted to get into it. Because obviously, when I think about the Yips, I always think about baseball and pitchers.
mhm,
But then and you touched on a couple of these. It's like, what else could this apply to? And it probably
yeah,
applies to athletes on a big stage. Or I was wondering, like, even I was going to say, I bet there's music performers that are some of the most talented musicians, but they can't go in front of a live audience just because of the sheer pressure. And just some of the things that contribute to that. Maybe we go over like some of the most famous cases.
so one of the
With
questions
Yips.
that I got even before the stream was just what are the Yips, right? That was the title of
Yeah.
the stream. The Yips. And so explain to the audience, Norty, what the Yips are.
So performance anxiety is so bad that you can no longer do whatever it is you're doing because of either the stakes are too high, whatever the case may be. And that's the easiest way I can think to break it down is you get anxiety so bad that you can't do whatever this task is. And the most common thing I was reading was a baseball player, and this wasn't even a pitcher; it was a catcher, Jared Saltalamacchia, who he's a catcher, right? So he's not throwing the ball like anything crazy unless there's a play and he's got to try and throw somebody out. But his case of the yips got so bad that he couldn't throw the ball back to the catcher.
Back to the pitcher.
Or back to the pitcher. Back to the pitcher. Sorry, he was a catcher. So the play's over. Like the sheer anxiety that he was under, he couldn't complete the task of throwing the ball back to the pitcher.
And this is someone who's made it to the professional leagues.
He made it to the professional level. So and this is why it's like the stage becomes too big, is what the idea behind the yips is, because these people played baseball in high school, probably played baseball in college for some of them, or they went to the minors and they've excelled so well that they're called up to the big leagues. And when they get there, they shut down being able to do whatever it is that they did to get them to that point. So whether it's throwing the ball, in this case, back to the pitcher, or a lot of times it's a pitcher who can no longer find the strike zone. They're throwing the ball past the catcher. They're throwing it into the dirt. They just can't lock in on throwing the ball over the plate. Like the most famous case for that one was Rick Ankiel, who was a pitcher who just abandoned pitching altogether and became an outfielder because he just couldn't find the strike zone after he got called up to the majors. And it wasn't even, he was fine in the majors, is once he got to the playoffs, he like had a breakdown and never was able to get it back.
Interesting.
So it's not even, it's strange because some of these, it's not even just getting to the big leagues, is once the playoffs happen. And it's just so much intense pressure that they just have crippling anxiety.
What do you refer to the yips when the entire team can't perform in the playoffs, like the Dallas Cowboys?
That's probably
can an entire team get the yips?
I mean, probably in some case, or that seems like a more of an infrastructure issue.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we've kind of discussed the yips in the context of baseball. Obviously, it can also apply. I mean, in football,
there's some famous kickers.
Kickers, right? Yeah. I mean, I imagine quarterbacks could also suffer from the yips, but I do feel that they play more consistently.
I think anybody probably could in professional sports, but it's highlighted in baseball, which is a very singular performance-based sport. Kicking in football is another thing where it's more singular than some of the other things. Quarterback is still a very team-oriented role, with a little bit more of a spotlight on you, but I'm sure it could still happen. And one of the more recent ones, I would consider this the yips, is Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. Do we have an article on that, or
basketball player? Couple of years ago, I think he was playing for the Sixers. Got to the playoffs and all of a sudden just couldn't shoot the basketball. He just could not shoot the basketball to the point where he's under the hoop, and instead of going for a layup, he passes it away. and he's a big guy, and he's like, just put the ball in the hoop, man. Like this, you're a professional athlete. How can you not do that? He just lost the ability to really shoot the ball, and everybody was ripping him a new one.
That's crazy.
Because it's just like you're supposed to be one of the top prospects in the NBA, and you just all of a sudden cannot shoot the ball in an offensive dominated league. So I don't think it's isolated to sports. I don't think it's isolated to one particular role in sports. I think certain things are just highlighted more because of the sheer audience or newsworthy things that can happen.
What about in your sporting career? Have you ever had any performance anxiety issues whenever in any of your childhood sports, since we're on the topic of childhood memories and experiences?
You know, I never had the yips. I was a decent athlete. I was never like the star player.
Statement, or is this a true statement?
That's facetious for sure, but it might as well. Like his crumble was legendary.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big basketball fan. I find it to be very.
I loved basketball.
Non-entertaining sport to play.
It's gone that way. I used to love basketball.
He's an Australian professional basketball player, or like.
Yep.
Is he actually Australian, or is he now playing in Australia because he?
No, he's Australian. He's still in the league. I think he was signed to the Nets this year.
Played college. Australian professional basketball player for the Brooklyn Nets. Played college basketball for one season at LSU. Was a first-team All-American as a freshman. He's only 26 years old. Huh. Just a colossal destruction.
Yes, he watched the videos of him passing up layups. Like, dude just got afraid to shoot.
Really?
Yep.
I want to see this.
It's wild.
Ben Simmons. Passed up dunk. Okay, let's see. Ben Simmons is broken. That's the title of this video.
It's a good title. Let's get your reaction. Is this like a highlight, Carlos, or how many clips of them are? How many clips are there of him passing up layups? Is it just because I remember it happening once. I want to know if this is like multiple clipped together and if it's gotten that bad.
I don't know. I have no concept for actual basketball. But I mean, basketball makes no sense to me, I'll be honest. I mean, I see it, I'm like, it's just a bunch of guys running around passing the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see the like competitiveness of basketball. I don't know how to explain.
Basketball is different when it's just one clip, but I've seen I'm sure there's tons. Like he won't shoot the ball anymore. I grew up watching Michael Jordan, living in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, I remember loving basketball as a kid. Like we would play in the street all the time.
Yeah.
It's
become terrible.
I remember watching Michael Jordan, but it was one of those like I was kind of into the magic of Michael Jordan, and when he was in the NBA Finals, I would watch the NBA Finals because I wanted to see Michael Jordan playing basketball. I never followed the basketball season. I never played basketball really either.
I played
outside of in the neighborhood.
So I played basketball growing up, basketball, baseball, football. I got a late start into football and then knee injuries. But I was never the star athlete. I never wanted to be the star, but when there's like pressure moments, I always wanted to be the one to either take a shot or come up big. Like I like those moments. They never really rattled me. It was like, okay, it's like now I really got to focus and like give it my all. Like those are the moments where like, let me try, right? Is when there's something at stake or there's a little bit more pressure. It forced me to like really pay attention and focus on whatever it was I was doing. Other than that, I was like, I'll be a team player. I'll pass the ball, lay down a bunt. I got hit by a lot of pitches playing baseball. Don't know why.
Oh, you were that guy?
I always got hit.
They're like, put the Norty kid in.
Yeah.
He'll throw himself in front of the pitch.
Yeah, I didn't throw I hated getting hit by pitches, but like I got
Yeah,
beamed.
right. You were probably stepping into him.
No, I would always. My coach was like, "Get closer to the plate." I'm like, "I get hit." No. And
How
like,
are you always getting hit?
I don't know. I got hit by my coach in practice. Like only player on the team to get pegged by my coach with a baseball. Like,
yeah, that checks out. You look like a guy who would take a flop for the team.
I
stick Norty in there. He'll take one for the team.
Hey, if that's what you got to do, that's on base. You get on base, that counts.
That's on base. Yeah. You're like the guy in Moneyball where they're like, no, he's terrible. No, but he gets on base.
But he gets on base, man. That's what I'm saying. Small ball.
Like, how did this Norty guy make it to the big leagues? Oh, he's professional getting hit by the ball, so he gets on base.
Listen, so you need small ball. It's not all about the grand slam. It's not about the flashy play.
Mm-hmm.
You take a shot to the chest or the arm, walk to first base, give him a little trot, shoot him a dirty look, take your elbow protector off. You're good. That counts. All right.
Yeah. I think reflecting on my amateur athletic experience, I think I was probably the type of athlete that actually really didn't respond well under the pressure. I always gave my best performances when there was nothing to lose. I was definitely always like anxiety free, was the best performance for me. I remember, so I played a lot of soccer as a kid. Couldn't kick a penalty shot for my life. I'd score 8 goals in a game. Couldn't score a penalty shot. To the point where like literally by like 4th or 5th grade, my rec soccer coach, who I had like every year, so he knew me well. He would stop having me take penalty kicks. I mean, you're a 4th grader, literally like the coach is like, yeah, he's not taking penalties.
So I played soccer too, and I was the goalie, and like nothing got by me. Nothing got by me.
Oh, that's because you didn't play me, my friend. I would have been smoke checking you. I was a goal machine.
Yep. Unless the goals counted, then you crumbled by your own admission.
I was putting up NBA numbers in soccer, my friend. I was putting up NBA numbers in soccer.
Well, and that's when I had to choose. I had to choose between playing basketball or going to like the soccer championships. I chose basketball. Turns out I stopped growing, and that was a terrible choice. I should have stuck with soccer.
Soccer championships in the middle of the winter. Basketball is always a winter sport.
I don't know what it was when I was a kid. I don't know what leagues I was in. Probably the cheap leagues.
Yeah.
But there's some regular like one-off basketball thing versus like the soccer season that I was fixated on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole one individual sport anxiety element was always a big component of wrestling matches too. Obviously I wrestled my whole life, and it was one of those things like I think wrestling was so like out of my head when you're so young. Like you're not really in your head. You're kind of like, win, lose, whatever, So I just go out there and be like, just crush kids when I'm in like kindergarten. But then you start getting into like even
it's real.
I don't think it was that serious, but you go to high school wrestling, and that's when it starts getting like very serious. And I definitely had a handful of matches where I just didn't meet up to performance, and a lot of times they were like in the finals of a tournament, and it's like everyone's expecting me to just blow through this tournament, mow everyone down, and I pretty much do because there's no pressure. And then you get to the finals, and it's like I can actually recount both. There's 2 tournaments, my freshman year, my junior year, where I was the first seed in the tournament. I was expected to win, and I went through fine, get to the finals, lost in the finals of both tournaments. Both times to somebody I had beat multiple times in the regular season prior. So beat the freshman year, beat this kid twice, lost to him in the finals on our 3rd match. Junior year, I wrestled this kid probably 4 or 5 times. Beat him every single time. He beat me in the finals of the tournament. We get matched up again in the next tournament because once the finals of this tournament was like round 1, and then you go to like the next level tournament. And we ended up getting matched up again in that tournament and beat them. Like literally, it's just like as soon as the pressure is on for the finals, my performance
just shuts down.
Dipped. And that was probably, and from some of the research I was doing, trying to look at this, the idea of sports performance anxiety from more of a medical clinical perspective. There's a lot of the ways that they address performance anxiety issues at the high level of sports is through coaching techniques too. Because there's a lot that the athlete has to do, but there's also a big role that coaches play in creating an environment that does not exacerbate existing performance anxiety issues. And obviously, I think at the high school level, like our coaches do not have that type of infrastructure, training, or sport. They're just like, get out there, win.
Yeah, there's no sports psychologist.
Lose.
No sports psychologist on staff for high school, especially back when we were in high school.
And it's one of those things like, and I think I was the type of athlete where if I had coaches that understood the significance of that and got ahead of it, I think it could have impacted me as an athlete for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting as this comes to light. I'm sure there's way more studies on it. Like you definitely hear more about sports psychologists and what they do. I know even in the esports world, I always end up talking about esports when we talk about sports. Like they talk about going to these on-stage events that are in, like there's now an audience when you're used to playing games at home. Like a lot of the top performing teams would bring in sports psychologists to work with the players. It's like, what's happening to you when you go on stage? You're this good player.
When you're totally see that
when you're playing in scrims or playing in just online against random people. Yeah. But the second they get on stage, it's like it's a completely different performance. It's like, how do you work through that? And that's anxiety.
I remember when I started playing the first game ever that I played, where I really played competitively and cared. I remember having so much, I don't even know, I guess anxiety when I would literally go into ranked games, to the point where like before the game, like my hand would be like shaking. Like I'm just so amped up. And it's like, I just need to like get into the game and like settle in. But it was one of those things like, and I never really, cause I'd never taken a game seriously. I'd never played a competitive video game, like a video game from a competitive angle before. But it was like, I had become so invested that it was like literally like so much anxiety of like, I have to win this game. Right, I have to be locked in, and it's like literally like I can't even keep my hands still to control my mouse to play this game. Right, this is how like fired up I would get, and then it got to the point where it's like literally you just have to play over and over and over and over and over again to the point where it was like
second nature.
I built up this like just callousness to losing, basically. I think that's what it is, right? Anybody can win. The question is, how do you handle losing? And it was like literally like in the words of David Goggins, I had to callous my daggone mind. Like callous your mind to losing. And the thing that I found though is it's carried over. This is obviously going back many, many years when this happened. But then as I went through that experience, subsequent games I ever tried to play from a very competitive angle, that psychomotor component of the anxiousness did not exist. It was like I had overcome it in this environment and it translated to other environments. It's able to just kind of be calm, cool, collected, go out there, do my business. If I lose, that's okay. I'll learn from it, move on, do the next thing. So that mentality to overcome the performance anxiety does translate.
Yeah, it's funny how it can translate to different areas too, right? Like I never really crumbled under pressure, but where I did find it is in a sales environment, which is what I've done forever. Is you have to be okay not winning them all, right? Like you have to, and you can't let it eat at you. You got to take it and learn from it, and then build up that callousness. Like people say no, it's fine. You move on to the next one. Could you have done stuff differently? Yeah, you could always do stuff differently.
Do you think that comes from a performance aspect, or that comes more from like a fear of rejection aspect? Because in a clinical, from
It's
a clinical perspective, those would be like two different, I
I
guess, like
think
diagnoses, right?
that's
Performance-induced anxiety versus fear of rejection. Those would be like kind of clinically
sales
different entities.
sales has a little bit of both. It's still a very competitive environment. It's like you want to win the deal, you want to win all of this stuff. So it has that, but it is that fear of like rejection. Like, what if this falls through? So it is both. Um, but I think you can use similar things to both of them. Like that would be my perspective, having played sports. I think there's elements of both in sales. Like I
Mhm.
think it is that there's a competitive nature of wanting to win and not liking to lose. Like I don't like losing. I don't like not performing well. Um, but I definitely have like a healthy fear of rejection, which is also human nature, and you have to get used to it in order to be successful in sales.
So, what do you think, as we're kind of reaching the top of the
Mhm.
hour, start thinking more from a addressing the performance anxiety? What type of things out there are you aware of? Are you aware of any um rebound success stories of athletes who had really bad yips and have,
Yeah.
really made good
I
rebounds?
think there's a couple that I sent you that ended up pretty good. Like I think Nick Foles ended up turning his career around.
Nick
But I don't think his
Foles.
was
I mean,
even
he
much.
won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I don't think his was even much of a. It was like a misdiagnosis of like a torn. What was it? Here we go.
I don't even know. I didn't even
He had a
realize
misdiagnosed
he was
torn
in that
labrum in his right hip, and I wouldn't have even known he had like the yips problem. I think even the catcher I had talked about before, Jared Saltalamacchia, he ended up having a nice long career. Even Rick Ankiel turned it around. He had a decent career as an outfielder. Um, it's probably a case by case basis. I don't know what they use to treat these. It's probably has something to do with isolating what's causing the anxiety. Like
Well, there's a lot of, I was reading up on it a little bit. There's a lot of different techniques, but they
probably
broadly break them into different categories
yeah,
of cognitive approaches. Like, how do you actually like train your mind to think about things differently?
yeah.
There's what they call like mindfulness approaches, which is basically like, how do you train your mind to not react to the cognitive process and take more of an, what they call an observer's role, where you sort of like see your emotional response to things and then like choose not to respond to it. Seems kind of hippity dippity. Um,
I,
then
I
they've got
assume there's some type of breathing techniques would probably help for some of it.
probably, those are probably mechanisms
Yeah.
that full that it, are a part of these broader categories, but it's not like, oh, this is the breathing technique. But I assume there's breathing exercises that are wrapped into the bigger
I
mindfulness
was gonna say that
treatment
probably
category.
contributes to
Yeah.
mindfulness is like being able to calm yourself and center yourself and through things differently than just anxiety.
Yeah. Then they've got, I think the other categories like emotional training, which is basically kind of, it seems kind of similar to the mindfulness thing, but it's like managing the emotional response to the feelings, so that way you don't emotionally respond to negative thoughts or something like that. And what was the other one? The other one is like more, they have like more behavioral based methods of treating these things, where this is kind of more like the like Skinner type philosophies of literally just training different behaviors, so that way you create a different
Response.
knee-jerk
Yeah.
reaction to a certain scenario. And then they have another element where really they try to remove the concepts of individuality and make things seem like, try to reframe everything in a way where you emphasize the role of the individual as a team, and how the team is performing, not the individual, to take the emphasis off the individual performance. I thought it's all kind of stuff that's like, yeah, okay, that doesn't, it kind of sounds like we're over, it all seems like stuff that's like very like, yeah, no duh. Like if I just went and had to have a heart to heart with an athlete as a coach and kind of help them get over this, you know, this is all the kind of stuff that's going to be going through my head of how I might help them do this. And then you just take a bunch of doctors and psychologists and take all this like sort of common sense stuff and sort of clinical, make it more clinical and sophisticate it more than but at the end of the day, it's sort of just dressing up common sense, in my opinion.
I mean, listen, that's the way I probably look at it too. Is like, well, just find ways to calm yourself, right? Like, calm down. But like, at the end of the day, these people are having this performance anxiety, and I don't think they can calm it. So they need somebody like that helps them.
Yeah.
Isolate where it's coming from and how to approach it for a situation that works for them. Just like everyday life anxiety, it's probably very similar.
True. Yeah.
So that's my guess around it. Because I'm the same. It's like, yo, just go out there and do it. Like, I don't know. Find, like, calm down, take a breath, don't crumble, go win the state championship.
Go win the state championship of what? What state championship are you winning, Norty?
I win all of them.
All of them?
All of them.
All of them.
I could beat some high schoolers in something, right? I don't know, probably not. Let's be
Norty playing any sport against state championship level high schoolers.
I'd take them out.
I don't think you stand a chance.
Take all of them out.
I think you would get whooped.
Take them all out.
I mean, I think I would get whooped. I don't really.
My knee would explode. I'd probably pop a hip out of place. So it doesn't even matter what we're doing. I'd hurt myself.
I could probably win.
You like ping pong?
At the state championship level, at the high school state championship level, I think I could win possibly like
badminton. I'd mess somebody up in badminton right
pickleball.
now. I haven't even played pickleball yet.
I could dominate some pickleball or team handball. That was my elite sport. Actually, that's where no performance anxiety exists. You want to talk about the master of a sport, the greatest to ever lay shoes on a court and throw down. I was the greatest team handball player that has ever played.
You know what's hilarious is I had a manager that went to the Olympics for handball. I was like, no one cares, Cliff. Like, I don't know. You can keep telling me you're an athlete because you played handball. Don't care.
I could embarrass him. I would
play in the Olympics for handball. Cliff did.
I mean, Cliff did. I could literally be a one-man team. Let me tell you this. I'm gonna
call it team handball. Now you're calling it a one-man team. Coming from the guy who just crumbled under pressure when he's wrestling in his prime, and you're gonna go wrestle on the grandest or
that's literally there's literally how good I am at team handball. Let me tell you, there are very few things that I would truly dig my heels in and brag about. Team handball is one of them. And I'm going to tell you a story of greatness.
Is that we're going to end this? Team handball?
When I was a junior in high school, or maybe it was my senior year, I took many credits of some computer class. It didn't matter. I just signed up. There's this teacher, Mr. Lodowitz. That was his name. He was this old, goofy guy, very funny, very nice. One of those high school teachers that was like, this dude was tenured and he just had retirement in his sights. He didn't care what the students did. He's like, don't mess with me. I won't mess with you. We'll make each other's lives great. Like, don't ask me to work. I won't ask you to be students. Right? That was his mentality. And he was like missing like the tip of his thumb. So he had like a half thumb, probably from like a carpentry accident.
Yep.
And he would just teach a bunch of computer classes. He was a big AutoCAD guy, maybe a sort of architect of sorts. I don't know. I know he would always talk about how he designed his lake house and built his own lake house. And he would sit there and like rub his little half thumb back and forth all the time.
I gave my half thumb for my lake house.
He probably sawed it off with a circular saw. But anyway, I would sign up. This one year, I signed up for like as many classes with him as I could. And I think I even did like independent study with him for like, I did everything I could with this guy because I'd literally walk in. I'd be like, hey, Mr. Lodowitz, I'm going to go to gym class and work out. He'd be like, all right, man. And I would literally just go tell him make sure I was alive. And then I'd go to gym class. And the gym teachers, they always loved having me around because the big issue with gym class, right, is they got all these girls and stuff that like don't want to
Don't want to
participate.
try. Don't want to do anything.
And they're like, all they want are like, they just want everybody to like show some effort. And I would bring enough effort to gym class for like 100 students. So the gym teachers always loved having me in gym class. And because I would like fire other people up. I would be like, yo, stop being lazy. You gotta get in the game, man. And like other people would try harder. So it was like I brought like this like infectious love for gym sports. So the gym teachers loved it because it would kind of like help rile the class up. And so the fact that I would show up for like 6 gym classes a day, never like the gym teachers never asked any questions. They were never like, what class are you supposed to be in?
You just hanging out here all day?
It was like, don't ask, don't tell, right? Ryan's just here for gym class. So this is the background. So there was this one gym class, Miss Mahoney's gym class. I would go because I'd always find the gym classes that were playing team handball, and I would join those gym classes. And so Mahoney's class is on this team handball rotational block. I had tons of friends that were in the gym class, and I would just show up every day. Well, the last day of the block, she's like, all right, we're going to do something different today. She's like, we're going to have a 5-man all-star team against everyone else in the class. It was like a 5-on-30 game of team handball. And I was selected to the all-star team of a gym class.
Not even in the class.
Not even in. And we crushed them. We crushed them good. That was a highlight of my entire academic career. Med school be damned. Team handball in gym class was where I peaked. Academically, gym classes, high school gym classes where I peaked.
Nice.
On that note, any closing thoughts on sports performance anxiety, Norty? Any last-minute childhood stories from the 90s you want to share?
Should have stuck with soccer. Should have stuck with soccer.
Yips. Basketball.
Yips are a thing. Figure it out. Lock it down. Go back to crushing it.
I feel like a sports psychiatrist would tell you that's terrible advice.
Lock it down. Identify it. Lock it down. Execute. Done.
And worst case scenario, you can always have a career in team handball.
Yeah, you can probably play handball, badminton. Pick one. I mess somebody up in badminton to this day.
Badminton.
The birdies.
Is slow of a sport for me.
Not when I'm firing the birdie back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Sure. Birdie done.
All right. Well, it's been a wonderful discussion. Next week
we cover 80s cartoons and
80s.
I don't know.
I wasn't alive.
I was an 80s baby. 89.
I was not. I was 90.
I remember the 80s.
You're an old man. All right, let's see. What's on the schedule for next week? We got, hold on, let me pull up the schedule.
We cover Pokemon cards, Ryan's experience in the tournaments, his favorite Pokemon, what Pokemon he would be if he were a Pokemon of the original 151.
What Pokemon would I be?
Yes.
Oh.
You pick one.
I feel like there's so many options. Like I can think of like a few off the top of my head.
Original 151.
But I feel like I need to look at a list. Original 150 Pokemon. I have to look at a list before I decide. The things that come to mind are not necessarily my true choices. There's a poster of the original 150.
I think I had that poster.
Let's see. Butterfree I remember that was a good one. I liked Butterfree. I like the episode where
You'd be a Butterfree.
just hammers them.
I love the Squirtle squad.
I mean, what was your starting Pokemon?
Always Charmander, obviously.
Oh, see, I always went Squirtle. Blastoise was my dude.
I love Squirtle. I didn't like Blastoise as much as I like Charizard because dragons and stuff.
No, I was a huge fan of Blastoise. I thought he was way cooler than Charizard.
I'm looking at this too. I'm looking. What else we got? What else we got here in this original 150?
I mean, I feel like you don't have a choice. You would be Mr. Mime. You literally look like Mr. Mime.
I don't look like Mr. Mime.
Mr. Mime is literally just Norty in Pokemon
I always love
form.
Gengar. I always love the ghost Pokemon.
Oh, dude. Hold on. I can't read the name. Well, I gotta find another picture here. Images. Let's see here. Gengar. Yeah, that was kind of at the top of my list. That was up there. Onyx is a pretty cool one.
Man, I forgot. There's so many weird Pokemon now, too. This is just taking me back to the good old days.
There's a Furby.
I always loved... No, there's not a Furby Pokemon.
Yeah, there is. Look at the list.
I can't look at the list. I always loved Mewtwo. I love the Psychic and Ghost Pokemons.
Starmie was pretty hardcore. Wait, did they give these Pokemon different names?
Yeah, there's no way none of those
Am I not looking at the
You're
right?
looking at the wrong... I was like, there's no Furby.
There's one. I was like, they all look legit, but then it seems like they've just inserted some random ones. And I'm like, wait, that's not right. Like this one, Mimey Boobs. I'm like, I don't think that was a Pokemon. That wasn't a Pokemon. Mimey Boobs? What? Hold on. Did I get swindled? Let's see. Hold on. I gotta find another list here. No, that's a YouTube video. Where's I need a picture.
Cloyster was always dope too because he could do the ice beam. You wreck somebody with an ice beam.
150 on original Pokemon parody. Maybe that's what I was looking at.
That's definitely what you're looking at. Starby.
It doesn't have names. Mimey Boobs. Like, wait a second. Is this real?
I like that you got to that point before you're like, wait a minute. Oh.
List of generations.
Or even what was your?
Pokemon.
Did you have like a go-to Pokemon card that was like your go-to card to win games?
So the card that I would stack my deck with to wreck kids at the Pokemon League was Zapdos.
Oh yeah.
I got a Zapdos and I could literally kill everyone. My goodness, why is this so?
And on next week's episode, Ryan reads a list of fake Pokemon names.
I can't even seem to find a legit list of Pokemon.
It was the first thing that came up for me. It's just a list of all the Pokemon.
Oh yeah, I guess there's just a lit. Oh, here, but I like the picture.
I mean, I had pictures next to it too.
This doesn't have pictures. What are you looking at?
What's going on, Jade? Welcome to the end of the show, where Ryan's trying to figure out Pokemon names.
Yeah, we're trying to find the original. I don't know what's going on. My chat seems to have turned off. I don't know what's going on.
I just found it. Do I need to send you this list of Pokemon names?
Oh, there we go. I don't know. Anyway, next week, the actual topic of the show, because we got very distracted here. The actual topic of the show for next week is going to be focusing on spinal injuries and outdoor sports. So things like mountain climbing accidents and
the luge
accidents, luge, yeah, all that kind of stuff, with a little more focus on spine injuries. Obviously, we talk a lot about head injuries. Spine is not outside the realm of our jurisdiction of interest. So we'll be talking about spine injuries and outdoor sports next week. So we hope you join us for that. It'll be the same time, 7 p.m. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday next week. Don't miss that show. It'll be a blast. We really do hope you'll join us and, come have a good time. But on that note, thanks for everyone coming out tonight. We had a great time reminiscing and talking about sports anxiety and performance anxiety in sports. So we hope you'll see you for next week. Any closing thoughts, Norty?
Not any additional ones. Excited to dive into some spinal cord injuries next week.
Cool. Well, on that note, Brad and Norty are going to head out, and we'll see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Eastern.